Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and today I'm going to be redoing my chocolate syrup recipe that I did back when I first started my channel. Now the recipe is pretty much the same, but I wanted to do it with better lighting and to show you how you can use food storage in order to make an easy and more healthy chocolate syrup. So let's get started. So what I have here is organic coconut sugar, organic cane sugar. I'm going to use both, but you have an option to use one or the other. I've got some raw organic cacao. Well, cacao means it is raw cocoa. And then I've got my own homemade vanilla extract. Now, if you'd prefer to use fresh milk, what I often use is the Organic Valley, or you can use your own. If you've got cows or goats, you can use that milk just as easily. I recommend you at least go with good, healthy, whole milk. However, since we're talking about food storage, I'm going to be using the Gosner milk. Now, this will store for, I would say, at least up to 2 years. I've had many of these boxes up to 2 years, and they're still good, though I do try to cycle through them. I keep these on hand for the sake of having it there. It's just another way I can store it up, as well as using powdered milk. There is a good powdered milk I also like to use, and I'll go ahead and link to that down below. I get it through the Subscribe and Save program through Amazon, and it's a pretty good price and a fairly decent tasting powdered milk. But since I already have this one open because I've been trying to work through these boxes because it's time to get them worked through and then restock, I'll be using this today. Now, I don't recommend using honey. I've recently been learning about honey and using it in cooked things. Now, while I love honey, raw honey, and using it as much as I can, I've always been of the mindset of keeping it raw, especially since it's so expensive for us, because that's where you're going to get the most health benefits. But what I've recently learned is that cooking honey, especially anything that's going to be a higher temperature, can actually turn it from being something healthy to something completely unhealthy and even toxic. So it's best not to use honey in anything that you're going to cook, and this is going to be cooked. So, but I'm sure there are some other healthy methods. I've actually made the chocolate syrup with just the coconut sugar alone, and it turned out decent, but I find a blend of the two, a 50-50 blend, to taste pretty good and still get more of the health benefits, you know, the minerals that are in your coconut sugar. And then the other thing you're going to need is some butter, but the butter and the extract will be the last things you put in. So everything else is going to go in immediately. So I'm going to start with, I like to measure the dry ingredients first. I'm going to start with 3/4 cup of the cacao powder. And I'll also link below to the cacao powder I get. I also get this through the Subscribe and Save program through Amazon, because you can save 50% and get a pretty good deal. And I get it by, I think it's a 2-pound bag that I get. Okay, so 3/4 cup. And I'll try to remember to put the ingredients here, the written ingredients, so you can see that, because I typically just throw stuff together. And then a 1/2 cup each of the organic cane sugar. Oh, and the coconut sugar I also get from Amazon through Subscribe and save 15%. So, and then a 1/2 cup of the coconut sugar, okay? And then I'm going to use 1 whole cup of the milk. Again, you can use whatever milk you have on hand. Just showing you how you can use your food storage. So let's say you don't have any fresh milk available, but you have some powdered milk or the boxed Gosner milk on hand, which I've heard that you can get at the Dollar Tree. I wouldn't know. I never shopped there. It's in town, and we wouldn't have time to stop there when we do go in. But if you can get it there, you get a much better deal. I get it locally at our local store for $2 a box, which is twice as much. Now, I then like to whisk the ingredients together. Sometimes I'll just use like a big salad fork to blend. Either one will work very well. You'll find that your cacao powder is going to want to float to the top, and you can see it starting to blend in there pretty good now. And the more you can get it blended in before you start cooking it, the better. But keep mixing it as you start cooking it. So I just turned this heat on to about medium, and I'll be back in a bit when this is hot. This has already started boiling. I got a little sidetracked, so let me bring it in closer. Okay, so hopefully you can see that it's not a rolling boil, because I can stir it down easy enough, but I can already see it's thickening up a bit here. And so what you want to do is just keep stirring it and cooking it. And you'll probably want to cook it for about 5 minutes. That's a rough estimate. You just want to keep your eye on it. You'll know when it really starts getting thick. And just keep it up. Now, the longer you cook it, the thicker it will get. And I've actually had some I cooked so long it was more like a chocolate fudge. But boy, it was good. So it's really going to depend on how runny you really want it and how you want to use it. Okay, I'm going to let this finish cooking up and get good and thick, and I'll be back when it's ready for the next step. All right, now I want you to see how thick this is, and it's still very hot because I just took it off the heat. And you can see right there, that's going to be, you know, and when it cools, it's going to thicken up even more. So that's a nice thick syrup. Okay, then the next thing you want to do is add in about a tablespoon of your butter. That's just going to give it a little bit more rich flavor. Oh, and also I suggest you might want to add just a pinch of salt to this if you prefer. Stir that in. And then this is where you're going to want to add your extract. It's always best to do this kind of stuff after you've made your syrup. Now when I'm making jam, I add extract in. I like to add it in while I'm cooking it. But to this, it's best to add it at the end, especially if you've already got it pretty thick. Okay, that looks smooth and wonderful. So now what I've done is I've heated up this jar. Let's make sure it's still nice and warm. And you can either heat your jar up like I've done here and then add your syrup, or wait until the syrup cools down to add it in. Either way, you don't want to put hot syrup in a cold jar. You're going to crack your jar. But since I've got the jar heated up, it should go in there just fine. And I also forgot to say, I meant to say this earlier, that you can use one of your homemade nut milks. Now I have several nut milk recipes, and I'll go ahead and link to at least one of them up there. The pecan cashew nut milk would make a really excellent choice for using in this, or your almond milk. And you could use a canning funnel if you want. I just forgot to grab it. Usually though, when I do the syrup, I just pour it right in the jar, but I would have ended up with a little less mess here if I would have used the canning funnel. But yes, the nut milk works really good. Sometimes it's not quite as rich. So obviously if you're doing a vegan recipe, use your nut milk, just leave out the butter. And if you're gonna use nut milk, then make it really thick. Coconut milk would be good too. Just make sure you make it as rich as possible. That will add even more flavor to your chocolate syrup. Okay, and then all you gotta do is put your lid on. I'm using a recycled peanut butter jar lid. I actually don't even buy this. We used to get this organic peanut butter at the store. I don't even buy this one anymore. I get the organic stuff from Costco and actually like it better. But you can recycle those lids and they'll fit on a lot of your pint-sized canning jars. Certain brands like Ball doesn't fit as well as the Kerr and other ones, but anyway, yeah, so you can do that, recycle those lids, or you can buy those plastic lids, you know, the Ball ones. So some of the ways that I like to use the chocolate syrup, well, Mr. Rain, he loves to use it to make his own chocolate milk. So that's one way that we use it, especially he'll do that when we get towards the bottom of the jar and there's still just chocolate left in there. He'll just add milk to the jar and shake it up really good, or stir it up really good, and he's got his chocolate milk. I like to use it when I'm making chocolate cream pie, as you can see in this picture here. What I do is I just dip a spoon into the chocolate syrup and drizzle it around on top of the whipped cream that I put on top of the pie. And I do have a recipe on a chocolate cream pie. It's another recipe I may redo down the road so I can get a better picture, but I'll link to the one I've got up there right now so you can check that out and see how I do that. And then of course it's really good on ice cream. And another one of my favorite treats is to take this and mix it with that Costco peanut butter. I really like that one because it's not too thick and it's easy to mix with something like this, and then eat it on a banana. It's so yummy. Anyway, so there's a quick and easy homemade recipe. It can be entirely organic or entirely from food storage, or maybe even both, depending on what kind of milk you have stored away, especially if you're using a good organic homemade nut milk. So you can take your nuts out of storage, whatever kinds you want, or your coconut, your organic coconut, make the milk, and then get your cacao and whatever sugar you're going to use and mix those together. And now you've got a completely vegan and organic and from food storage chocolate syrup. or fudge, depending on how far you cook it down. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.